Namaskar. Today I am going to talk about predictions for India and the world for 2022-2023. Now, for these predictions, what is our basis? We look at the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada horoscope, cast a day before the Navratras. So this time, the horoscope made is of 1st of April, at the exact degree conjunction of the sun and the moon on the Amavasya of 1st of April. That is the exact time when we cast this chart. Now this chart, which is the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart, is looked at to understand how the coming times will be for countries, not for individuals. So I can't make a Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart for you, but I can for India, for whichever country that I want to understand what is going to happen in the next year. I can make this chart for that country. This is a tool that we have in mundane astrology. Mundane astrology, the astrology of countries, of clans, where we understand how people are going to fare in that particular country for this year. Another chart which is of importance is the solar ingress chart. Though solar ingress happens in 12 signs, into 12 signs in 1 year, but the Aries ingress is of importance. The Sankranti of Mesha, of Aries, which happened today itself. So both these charts are studied, but more importantly, the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart. Now, if we look at this chart, this is a Mithun Lagna rising horoscope, a Gemini Lagna rising. Lagna Lord Mercury is in the 10th house, conjunct with Moon and Sun. Saturn and Mars, both the cruel planets, are in the 8th house for this chart, in Capricorn. Lagna Lord Mercury is in the nakshatra of Saturn, who is the 8th Lord, Uttar Bhadrapad nakshatra. Jupiter and Venus in this chart are in the 9th house. Now, both Saturn and Mars in this chart are in Dhanishta nakshatra, the nakshatra of Mars, or the nakshatra of the 6th Lord, because for a Gemini Lagna chart, Mars is the 6th Lord in the 8th house, conjunct with the 8th Lord. This is not showcasing a comfortable year. This is showing loss of life, violence, volatility, amongst other things. If we look at the Navamsha for this chart, the Navamsha that is rising for this Mithun Lagna chart, this Gemini Lagna chart, is Aries. In the Navamsha horoscope, Mercury is in the 8th house, aspected by both Mars and Saturn. So this year is showing major troubles, will not augur well on many fronts, but economy will be fine. That's most important to understand. Why? Because Jupiter, in fact, just a day before, entered into Pisces, its own sign for the Indian independence horoscope. Pisces is the 11th house of the Taurus Lagna horoscope for Indian independence, which is the 11th house. And Jupiter, the 11th Lord in the 11th house, is showing gains, and the economy will be fine, in spite of the hiccups. There was a panel discussion that had happened on the 1st of January. I have not shared it on my channel, but you can find it. There's a panel discussion for G-Files. And I had said that I don't see this wave of corona to be the one that I predicted in October, From November 20th it will pick up, and again build up from January, February, March, April. I had said on the 1st of January in this panel discussion that I don't see a very troublesome wave of corona this time. Why? Because Jupiter will enter the 11th house, and therefore lockdowns are not going to happen, and this will be mild. Why? Because economy is not getting affected. That can be seen throughout the year because Jupiter will remain in Pisces till April 2023. It will be retrograde, it will be direct, but largely a Pisces Jupiter, which will be fine for the economy in spite of the troubles. Corona is not a thing of the past. There is much more to come and we need to be prepared. There is a previous video that I had done and I had said that in Vikram Samvat 2080, which begins from April 23, there is going to be much mayhem as regards corona. There will be another wave, you can call it the fourth wave, that picks up from June, July. Saturn in Capricorn aspects Rahu, aspects Ketu in Libra, and when Saturn will move into Aquarius, it will aspect Rahu with its third aspect. Saturn is largely going to be in Capricorn this year, but for the months of May, June and 15 days of July, it will be in Aquarius. So either way, one of the nodes is getting the aspect of Saturn. Jupiter is not conjoining this aspect. So therefore, it will not be a very bad wave, but corona is again going to come up June, July onwards. This is one video where I am discussing larger trends, but I will do further more videos where I will microscopically look at various points that I am talking about in this video and elaborate on them further. So another wave is coming up in June, July. A colossal, very troublesome wave, which could be a variant of corona, is picking up from next year, April onwards. That will be very, very troublesome, and world over it will cause loss of life. Not that this year will not be troublesome, but just to give you a perspective in terms of the intensity of the wave. Now, China, by the way, will see a very bad wave in this June, July itself. A very bad and a very serious wave of corona in this June, July itself. Anyway, coming back. So what is it that we are looking at for this year? Now, in this Chaitra Pratipada chart, one can say that some bills are going to get cleared with thumping majority. The Uniform Civil Code, the Population Control Bill, and something on conversion, which will curtail conversion. Some law, some strong action is going to take place on that front as well. Some rules are going to be made for foreign funded NGOs. Some strict laws will come into place for these foreign funded NGOs, which is the need of the hour as well. Also, this Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 9th house of the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada horoscope shows bloody conflicts. In October 2021, I had done a video where I had said that mid-February to mid-April, there is a severe strain of communal tension. The hijab row, the release of the film, Kashmir Files, stone pelting on the Ram Navami procession, and other violence in Bengal. So it has roused passions. the truth has been revealed and people have decided that enough is enough. That sort of a thing is happening and is going to continue. The minorities who believe that they are minorities first and Indians later will have to change that mindset. You're an Indian first and a minority or a minority religion later. That mindset will have to change. That mindset will have to change for the betterment of the minorities. That is going to happen. So that is giving you a hint of many things, and hopefully things will change. In 2018, I had written on social media, there's a video also on the channel done in 2019, talking about how Imran Khan's government would be a short-lived one, because he will not fulfill or complete his term. And this was taken from the chart that I had cast at that point in time was his oath-taking chart. And I have written it. There's also a video, as I've mentioned. The new PM who's come in, his chart is also showing an unsettled state of affairs for Pakistan. I am going to do a separate chart for Kashmir, which will be cast for the instrument of accession of Kashmir at that particular point in time. That is showing troubles ahead as well, but I will do a separate chart on that. But right now, it's going to be this particular Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart. I'm reminded of one of Annie Besant's famous quotes, that the sword of India was broken during the Mahabharata, and it has to be refashioned again for India to be great once more. The underlying meaning being that the Kshatriyas of India were no more after the Mahabharata, after the great battle of Mahabharata. But the charts, the planetary conjunctions, the aspects are showing that now the Kshatriyas will rise again and defend themselves, defend their dharma, defend their Rashtra, defend this. The Kshatriyas will rise to defend this civilizational state, Bharat. That is going to happen. People need to understand that. That is a clear prediction, and this stands true for the next decade and another and more. Because now, from 2020, and I've said this before, is the time of the Khanda Pralaya. And during Khanda Pralaya in Kali Yuga, Maya sort of settles down and Satya, the Agni, blazes forward. But there's a lot of sacrifice involved, a lot that goes on this sacrificial altar. Anyway, okay. While we are at Kshatriyas, I want to share one very interesting piece with you. My Jyotish Guru, Kin Rao sir, had shared this with me a long time back. Henry Asquith, one of the Prime Ministers of Britain, in one of his parliamentary speeches, after he lost his son, who had fought a battle through compulsory military service, conscription. He studied at Oxford, at Cambridge, and he died during the war. So Henry Asquith had said this in one of his parliamentary speeches, that Bharat is great for having this system. I'm not saying that I'm for it or against it. I'm just quoting something that someone had said. So it said, Bharat has a great system. When they go to war, Kshatriyas and Shudras fight. The economy is controlled by the Vaishyas, that is contained. Even during war, the economy is at place, and it is the Brahmins who keep the intellectual knowledge safe, the wisdom of the ancestors, of the ancients safe, and through Shruti and Shravan it is passed on from one generation to another. And then there is a lot of narrative that goes, and people are heard talking about Brahminical patriarchy. If I had said in Indian, I'd praised the Brahmins, people would have, gotten angry, but here I'm referring to a British PM talking about how the Brahmins of India are the main reason why, as a civilizational state, we still have our ancient wisdom intact. The Purana is intact because it is only through Shruti and only through, this entire parampara of transferring knowledge, ancient knowledge. So our scriptures are intact. The Puranas are any which ways, Aparushiya, ancient of the ancient. And that was a small piece that I wanted to share. Anyway, so coming back to the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart. Now, see, bloody conflict, as I said, or violence within the country is growing. 22 will be a trailer, 23 will see a lot of violence, which will have a communal shade to it. But the government will take a very strong stand, a very strong stance, and this will be curbed. So terrorist activities will be controlled, curtailed, but terrorist activities world over are building up. One will see a lot of terrorist activities on US soil as well. There are going to be a lot of climatic changes that are going to come about from this year onwards. Temperatures will soar. We will see summers which are at 50 degrees Celsius, which is not a good thing. Water riots, not for this year, but in the coming times, water riots are going to become a reality. Something that K.N. Rao ji had mentioned and has written about many years ago. So I tell this to a lot of people, that when we waste water, when we waste a resource outside, then that resource, that tattva, is getting wasted within the body as well. So you have a tap which is running and you don't care because you believe, so what? It's a hotel, so what? I would any which ways pay the same bill, irrespective whether the water is running or not. Let me waste some more. So I tell this to people, one day a gland in your body can also decide that I will secrete a little more. The equation outside will balance with the equation inside. Then one will have to be very worried. So please be careful of the karma that you're doing outside, because that will showcase inside. Then you will have to go to a doctor and might not even rectify. Okay. So another point for Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. So this agitation that we've been seeing on the roads, and case in point is the Kisan Andolan. Those agitation and those elements who believe in sitting down on dharnas and causing untoward agitation, the government will take a strong stance on that as well. And no longer will people be able to hold dharnas or agitations which affect the economy of the country. Because if you recall the Kisan Andolan, during that Kisan Andolan, a lot of factories on the outskirts of Delhi had to be shut. there was a revenue loss that happened to the tune of very many crores. So you can have an agitation, but you can't have an agitation which will affect the economy of the country. So that sort of will not be tolerated anymore, and the government will take a strict stance on that. That is another prediction. With the way things are, a senior leader, whether from the party in power or opposition, can face an attack and can even die during the attack. A serious attack can be planned. That's what the stars are showing. A serious attack can be planned on a leader of the party in power or the opposition. Having said that, Congress is going to see very many changes in the coming times. Very many changes. But those changes are not going to bring a lot of success, but very many changes. Let's not get into success or not success, because I think I would do another analysis for the Congress chart later on, but very many changes are coming about in the Congress. I will soon discuss Kejriwal's chart also. Many years back, I can't say many years back, when I predicted that he'd be winning the Delhi elections, I had said that August 22 onwards there are problems coming up. I will discuss that in a separate chart and take you through it. A nationalist sentiment is on the rise. Any anti-national activity will be dealt with with an iron hand. That is going to happen. And that can rattle a lot of people who can then agitate, and then again those agitations will not be taken well by the government, by the ruling government. I've already spoken about Corona, and I've said that June, July we are seeing another wave. But the economy is not getting hampered. The economy is still going well. It's going to be fine with Jupiter in Pisces. But in China, as I said, the economy is showing troubles. And I had done a horoscope reading for China in 2020 when I had spoken about the Tokyo Olympics. Tokyo Olympics is something that my guru K.N. Raoji had discussed with me, and I had shared his prediction on Tokyo Olympics in 2020. In that video on my channel, I had discussed how the economy of China is now going to be on a downslide. 2020 onwards, on till around 27, 28. And I had mentioned in another video in April 2021 that India is going to now do very well and get bullish on manufacturing and production. And China will lose its control, that leadership stance that it had. On production and manufacturing. That will slowly be India's forte. That will slowly become India's forte. So China is going to see some bad years ahead, starting from 2020. June, July will show a very bad variant or a very strong, severe strain of Corona in China. Interestingly, if we study the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart of China and the horoscope of China, the planets are such that China is in a mood to invade, to go at war, to fight at borders. And then I studied the chart of Taiwan. An invasion seems to be happening. China seems to be invading Taiwan. That is looming large. That invasion, that threat of an invasion is looming large for Taiwan. China will not stop at Taiwan. China will also increase its border troubles, border skirmishes with India. So border skirmishes between China and India are going to increase now. Before July itself, you will see what is going to happen. China, the planets are such that China might actually decide to get on with a war with India. But with Corona troubling China in June and July, and India really fighting and giving China a tight slap on China's cheek, that seems a reality. India is going to fight well and will be victorious. China will make a mistake if it decides to fight with India. I had said this in 2020 as well, that border skirmishes are now a reality, and one has seen that in the last 2 years enough has happened, and India has taken a strong stance, and China is going to fight some more, and India will take an even stronger stance and fight well. And I have told you about Taiwan. When one looks at the chart of USA, and I've discussed India, I'm discussing some other countries as well, so this will give you a trend for the world. USA too is poised for a downfall since July 2021. The downfall is not manifest. It's not manifest as of now, but from mid-23 onwards, it'll manifest and be visible. The seeds are already sown. The decisions that USA is now going to take will only trouble the economy of USA furthermore. Terrorist activities will build up on US soil. European countries want that the Third World War should be on Asian soil. Well, that will not happen. That is not going to happen. A major world war, World War III, and I will do a separate video on that, we see post 2030, but in 2022, with this war between Russia and Ukraine, many countries are now going to jump into this war. The NATO countries, the 30 countries, the allied partners, the 30 countries, and USA, France too is going to fight. So a mini world war seems to be happening even in this year. That is a big prediction that I'm making. A mini world war seems to be happening in this year as well. And Russia and Ukraine will be are playing a pivotal role in that. Because now many other countries will get involved. Many other countries will get involved. Because if one studies the chart of Ukraine, then this Makar Lagna chart is not showing any respite. Even the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada chart of Ukraine is not showing any respite. The war is building. Ukraine is currently running the dasha of Jupiter-Venus, which continues till 24, which is a bad dasha for this chart. And even after that, the dashas that are coming up are only showing troubles. So Ukraine will well be at the central, or in the eye of the storm, even post 2030, around 2029, and even after that. And Russia is not going to give up on this war, because Ukrainian chart is showing troubles after troubles after troubles. It is not going to end in 2 months or 4 months or 6 months. It is continuing. This is going to be an issue that has now sort of erupted, and it's not going to settle soon. This will not settle soon. This is going to ensue for a while, for a very long while. And as I said, many other countries are getting involved. USA, France, NATO countries, they're all getting involved in this Russia-Ukraine bit. And China, on the other side, is going to invade Taiwan. That seems to be happening. So these are my predictions for the world. In India too, so I've said natural disasters. Now I see natural disasters for this year, and as I said, this is a video where I'm discussing some trends, but I will look at these things again microscopically, and I will again do another video which will detail what I'm saying here. I will detail those out, detail those points out. Coastal areas in India, I'm specifically talking India here. Coastal areas in India, there seems to be some upheaval in the water element, so tsunamis are likely. There is displacement of people of the coastal areas. That is a point that I wanted to make. Saturn, whenever it aspects Simha, then a poet astrologer called Ghag, he had written it in one of his books, that when Saturn moves over Simha, then the Gad of Delhi, there is trouble for Delhi. There's trouble for Delhi. Now Saturn will not be in Leo, but Saturn from Aquarius is going to aspect Leo. That will cause trouble to the capital city of the country. Now Saturn will be in Aquarius for May, June and 15 days of July, these 2.5 months. But again it will retrograde back into Capricorn. And in the last week of January, end of January, again move into last week of January 2023, move into Aquarius for good for 2.5 years. So that was, those were 2 points that I wanted to share for India. Coming back to the CSP chart for India. So these are largely the points that I wanted to share as predictions for 22-23, the year which has Saturn as the king and Jupiter as the minister, wise minister. Jupiter as the very, very wise minister, but Saturn as the king, which will not take any injustice. And injustice that has previously been meted out will now be reversed. That is going to happen. That is what Saturn as the king for this particular year is going to do. So revelations of the past are going to come up. Kashmir Files is an example. A revelation of the past, where now people will come out and seek justice, and Shani will deliver that justice. It's a very interesting point if you get what I'm saying. With that, I will end this video. Thank you and namaskar.